most of their players, basically all of their star players, and they lose 4-3 to the Montreal Canadiens at home. This had definitely a preseason feel. Montreal was coming in with a 9-game losing streak, and Montreal really did not play all that well when you consider the lineup the Rangers put out there. Really, this game comes down to Alexander Georgiev was awful. And look, he had a winning streak. It's not to say that Georgiev is always bad. I think that Ranger fans are hard on him, and in some ways deservedly so. But the fact is that if Igor went down, you can't trust Georgiev. We have seen him pull out amazing performances out of nowhere, but oh my God, was this bad? Because sometimes I think Georgiev probably takes unfair criticism, but in a game like this, he was just terrible. Thank God it had no meaning at all. And so there isn't a whole lot to say about this game. It was a weird game. This was really a game in which a lot of the key guys were out. So, of course, we knew Panarin and Kopp, because they got hurt the night before, wouldn't play. But also, no Zibanejad, no Kreider, no Fox, no Trouba, no Lindgren. So, and three of those players, Kreider, Zibanejad, Trouba, had played all 80 games of this season. So Keandre Miller, he played. So he's the only person that has a chance of playing all 82 games. But Gallant said after the game, he doesn't care about any of that. Kreider was 2 goals away from Jaromir Jagr's record. And as unfortunate that is as a fan, you completely understand it. The health aspect is the most important thing. It just is. Winning and losing this game, the result doesn't really matter much at all. It really doesn't. I mean, you can talk about home ice in the third round, in terms of Tampa and, things like that. But that's really out there, far out of the way. I mean, if the Rangers even get there, that'd be amazing. So you cannot concern yourself with things like that. So, this was a game in which the Rangers, I thought, the effort level was there. It just reminds me how there were a lot of guys in the lineup that's I'm glad that they don't play anymore. I mean, Libor Hájek is just absolutely terrible. The guy is awful. I mean, I feel bad for Zach Jones. Zach Jones gets called up, and I think with Zach Jones there was some good and some bad, but he showed some flashes, and I feel bad that he stuck with Libor Hájek. I almost wonder, because I know that they wouldn't want to have Jones or Schneider, and I get that. But I almost wonder, would a Jones-Braun pair be better than Nemeth Schneider? It's just something to think about. We'll never know. But, because that Nemeth Schneider pair, I just don't feel great about it. The Ranger depth could be a bit of an issue. I think that top 4 is going to get a lot of minutes. Lindgren, and that's how it is in the NHL. It's tough to have a good bottom pair. But I think Lindgren, Fox, Miller, Trouba is going to play a lot come playoff time. And then also for the forwards, we really need everyone healthy because, if you ever had to go to a guy like Julien Gauthier, it'd be a disaster. Julien Gauthier is simply not an NHL player. One guy who I think actually steps in and I think looks decent is Johnny Brodzinski, but unfortunately it seems like he's behind a guy like Greg McKegg, which makes no sense. So, that's why the Tyler Mott injury hurts, because I really feel like it exposes a bit of a depth issue. But if you could have had all of those guys and let's say had a fourth line that was let's say Tyler Mott, Rooney, and Goodrow, not bad at that point. That would not be horrible, but that's just not the case. Also, the kid line, you can't go with the kid line. Lafreniere, Hedl, Kakko, it sounds good, but you cannot do that. You can't trust that'll work. I'm sorry. That's and I don't think you will see that. You're likely going to see someone like Goodrow on a line with a few of the kids. You're not going to see all 3 of them on the same line. What that's going to lead to, I don't know, because you really don't want to put one of them on the 4th. But there's going to have to be some decisions that are made there. But I think the Rangers' depth, when fully healthy forward-wise, and you can scratch a Ryan Reeves, it's not bad at that point. But I definitely think the Rangers are definitely dependent on their top players, which is why the additions of Vetrano and Kopp were gigantic. And unfortunately, Mott is hurt, and Braun just doesn't really have much of a role. But I think he might play it. I think one way or another, he might come playoff time. So the Rangers, effort, like I said, effort was there. It was a weird game, pretty ugly. Honestly, the first two periods were basically unwatchable. Sam Montembeault was in there for Montreal. He wasn't very good. The goaltending was bad in this game. Um, Zach Jones draws a high stick. He made a nice play where it was a recovery play, and he actually drew the penalty. But the Ranger power play, without all the top guys, did nothing tonight. The Ranger power play was 0 for 3. They tried to kind of divvy up the power play 1 and power play 2. Like, it wasn't like all of the best players were on one. It seems like they mixed it up, and nothing really happened there. Yeah, Montreal kills off that one. And at the end of the period, it was just, that was the theme. Georgiev giving up late period goals. Some worse than others, but generally the goals were not great. Ryan Poehling scores at 18:45, his 9th goal of the season. And at this point, it was a lot of the lesser guys. It was, I think Reeves was on for this goal. Hayek and Jones were on for this one, I believe, as well. So, it felt like, damn, like if this had been a regular game, like that probably doesn't happen. But anyway, Montreal makes it 1-0. Rangers do tie it up at 1. It is Ryan Reeves that actually scores his 5th goal of the season from Nemeth and Rooney. This is a one-timer on a pass from Nemeth to Reeves in the slot, and it went off of the stick of Christian Dvorak. And the Rangers would tie it up at 1. Soon thereafter, Frank Vetrano is interfered with, but the Rangers power play unsuccessful. 7 seconds into it, the power play ends because Julien Gauthier interferes with Jeff Petrie. Julien Gauthier just can't really do anything right, even if the intention is there. He's just a frustrating player. So it's 1-1, and back and forth, and with 8 seconds left in the second period, it's a goal for Jeff Petrie, his 5th goal of the season. And, this is a goal that Petrie gets over the shoulder of Georgiev. The defensive coverage there wasn't great. I think Vetrano kind of, stayed back. And I forget the defenseman who stayed back as well. But, could have been better defensive coverage, but that's a bad goal to allow at the end of the period. 2-1 Montreal, but the Rangers would tie it up again, and it would be Frank Vetrano, his 18th goal of the season, 8th with the Rangers in 21 games, assisted by Goodrow, 4:15 of the third. And Frank Vetrano, he really has one of the best shots in the National Hockey League. His shot is impressive. He likes to shoot, and he's good at it. He can pick those corners. It's very impressive what he can do in terms of his goal-scoring ability. And so Vetrano ties it up at 2. And then Joel Edmondson boards Ryan Strome, but the power play does not score. Then Kevin Rooney, before the Kevin Rooney penalty, Mike Hoffman, horrible goal by Georgiev. It's a Mike Hoffman goal at 12:08, 14th of the season to make it 3-2. It squeaks by Georgiev, just no excuse for that. None. And then Kevin Rooney takes the penalty at 14:27, but the Rangers kill it off. And not only do they kill it off, they get a short-handed goal. Really bad goal by Sam Montembeault. It would be Ryan Strome scoring his 21st goal of the season. Barclay Goodrow gets his 2nd assist of the night, and the Rangers tied up at 3. So, all right, at this point, looking at a game that might go to overtime. And, in terms of that, as I said in the last episode, the Rangers had not lost 3 games in a row in regulation all season. They had one 3-game losing streak, and within that 3-game span, they got 2 points. But in this one, this would be their first, and obviously this needs to be taken with a major, major grain of salt. I mean, the Rangers put out basically an exhibition lineup, but Jeff Petrie scores again. 2nd of the night, 6th goal of the season with about 30 seconds left, and very similar to the first goal. Georgiev, high goal on Georgiev. Georgiev, his positioning was awful all night long. Sometimes he's deep in his crease. Sometimes he's not standing straight up. Like, some of these things are just basic, really basic stuff that Georgiev is just clearly he just did not look good at all. So, for someone who really wants to make a name for himself in this league, moving forward, and a player that I don't think is going to be a Ranger, this might be his last Ranger game, or, potentially against the Capitals might be his last game as a Ranger, assuming Igor stays healthy in the playoffs. Not exactly the way Georgiev wants to end it, but Montreal wins it 4-3. Like I said, Montreal snaps that 9-game losing streak. The Rangers lose. Again, the result, not a big deal. Just more so, like I said, the main thing for me is Georgiev just being terrible. And now Washington. So Washington's next, and we will see what they decide to do. I think it'll be a similar lineup. I think it'll be a very similar lineup where a lot of the top guys will be out. Maybe there'll be some small changes here and there, nothing significant. And I just think that's what's going to happen. But it's an interesting caveat just because Washington might be the Rangers' playoff opponent, but I still don't think that's going to change the outlook. You cannot risk injury. And so therefore, I think you're going to be looking at a very similar situation, but with a game that might have a little bit more of a – this had an exhibition feel. I think that Capital game, it might feel a little bit more real just because the Capitals – they'll be playing for seeding and potentially playing the Rangers. So we'll see what happens in that game. One more game to go before the Rangers start their journey in the playoffs, and we will find out whether they will be playing the Pittsburgh Penguins or their final opponent of the regular season, the Washington Capitals.